Hey guys, Stephanie with AmericanMuscle.com here with my overview and an install of the PMAS Velocity Cold Air Intake, available for the 2015 and up GT Mustang. This overview is going to cover a few topics for the PMAS Velocity Intake, like what you can expect from this intake, some info about the components and construction, and some info about the install. The install for this is a simple one. It's a 1 out of 3 wrenches in the scale, but I will get more into that a little later on. The PMAS Velocity Cold Air Intake is going to be for the S550 GT owners out there that are looking for a cold air intake velocity stack combo. This intake is also for someone that's looking for a cold air intake that does not require a tune. This is an open element style intake with a separate aluminum mass airflow housing, so it's gonna give a different look under the hood. So all around, it's safe to say that this intake is a touch different than most other intakes out there. There are a few things that are gonna make this intake different than a lot of others that are available right now. But the big thing here is that this intake comes with a mass airflow sensor. This new sensor is going to allow you to run this intake with a massive mass airflow housing and inlet tube that the intake comes with without needing a tune and without getting a check engine light. The inlet tube and the housing are 120 millimeters, which is a big upgrade. And the other plus side of this, it doesn't void warranty because you don't need a tune. PMAS does also offer this exact same intake without the new mass airflow sensor for $100 less, but you will need a tune to run that intake. The difference in these offerings is just the mass airflow sensor. This one comes with it, and so you won't need a tune, and the other one does not come with a new sensor, so you will need a tune. This intake is going to come with a few pieces. You have your air filter with a velocity stack, your inlet tube, clamps, a coupler, and mass airflow housing, your new mass airflow sensor, and your heat shield. And it's going to come with all the necessary hardware that you need to get the intake installed. Now I will say right away here that because this intake does not require a tune, don't expect power gains from the intake alone. If you're looking for power gains, you'll need to pair the intake with a tune. So keep in mind that you always have the option of purchasing the tune required PMAS intake if you're looking for the most gains possible with this exact intake setup. This intake does have a little bit of a different design when you compare it to other cold air intakes for the S550. It's designed to be as free-flowing as possible. You're looking at the 120 millimeter intake tube with no MAF resolution loss and a velocity stack inlet design. Now this is an open element design, which means that it doesn't have a closed air box. It does have this heat shield, which is designed to keep the hot engine compartment air out of the air box, and it is sealed. Taking a look at some of the components of the intake, the air filter is a reusable oiled filter. It's made from layers of cotton and epoxy-coated wire screens for durability and for filtration. The oil is used to treat the cotton to give it a tackiness and give it the filtration abilities that it needs. What's nice about the reusable filter is that you can clean the filter when it's dirty and reinstall it and not have to worry about having to purchase a new filter every time. When it comes to the intake tube, this does look a bit different than what you'd see with other intakes. This intake is about maximizing airflow, and you can see that the inlet tube is more of a triangle shape than anything else. And the mass airflow housing here is a separate aluminum housing, which isn't something that you typically see with cold air intakes for the S550. The majority of other cold air intakes have a one-piece inlet and MAF housing, unlike this setup here. One's not necessarily better than the other, but they do give different looks under the hood. Looking at the price for this intake, you can expect to pay close to the $400 mark. Now, like I said, this intake does have some features that most other aftermarket cold air intakes don't offer, like the separate MAF housing, the new MAF sensor so you don't need a tune, and the velocity stack. So I expected this to be priced a little differently than the competition. The tune-required version of this intake is $100 less expensive, but just keep in mind that you will need a tune to run that intake, and that's why it's priced differently. As for the install, it's nothing too difficult, and like I mentioned earlier, the intake will come with all of the items that you need to complete the install. This is probably one of the easier mods that you can tackle with your new Mustang, and it'll take about a half hour or an hour tops, and I'm going to call it a 1 out of 3 wrenches on our scale. All you really need to complete the install is a few basic hand tools. So what you're looking at needing to do is removing the factory airbox. You need to disconnect the airbox from the inner fender and remove the inlet tube from the air filter and the throttle body, but we're just talking about a few bolts and clamps to get that done. This intake installs nearly the same way that the factory airbox came out, so the install is pretty much the same as installing a factory intake. Just put on your new couplers and clamps and slide the air filter and shroud into place and tighten everything down. Wrapping things up here, this intake from PMAS does not require a tune, and it has a large 120 millimeter inlet tube and a separate MAF housing. It also has a reusable air filter and includes a velocity stack to maximize airflow. This intake is a little bit different than others out there, so it is going to look slightly different under the hood, and as always, you can check it out more online for yourselves right here at AmericanMuscle.com.